Greetings, greetings. Which one of us, among our 4 generations gathered here, has not on 100 different star-filled nights, in 100 different fields, or on 100 different country roads, stopped and turned her face or his up into the overarching sky at night and selected out a single shining star and listened to the silent, pulsing message that has come from that star down across the billion miles that stand between us and the distant planets that we have known to invisibly be there, orbiting silently around that distant star, and watched, actually felt in our mind's eye only, a distant neighbor riding down through the night, filled with stars, coming to our earth here down below, standing there silently on the deck of their silver starship, coming to our earth to see us down here below, too entranced to turn away our gaze, knowing that she was coming here to our world, but each time leaving us just a bit disappointed that it wasn't me or you that she was coming that time to see. But now, a new age has arrived when each one of us will soon come to know that our distant neighbor has arrived and see that it has always been each one of us, that she had come here even that time. And all this time, from deep into the nighttime space, they have been pulsing this message, asking us, how is it we think all of this has come to be? So we are the 4 generations who have been blessed by our universe to actually be alive here in the very first year of this second decade of the 21st century that is welcoming in an entire new era in the history of our human family. This new era promises to be even more momentous in the course of human events than was the Renaissance, which was ushered into being way back in 1440 with the discovery by Gutenberg of the movable press, printing press, which moved on into the 1600s to result in the discovery by Copernicus, later confirmed by Galileo, that we were not, in fact, physically located at the very center of the universe. This new era promises to be even more momentous than the Enlightenment, which was ushered in by the writings of John Locke in the late 1600s, 1688, came through the critical thinking of Voltaire and Spinoza in the 1750s, and eventually generated in 1859 the discovery that we as a species had actually biologically evolved up from this earliest single-cell life on our planet through the early reptiles and fish and into the early mammalian and then into primitive man, and finally into our present form with our large brain, which in fact has come to be the species-defining quality of us as Homo sapien, the thinking animal. This new era that we stand together at the very threshold of is going to be delineated from all of the past epochs of human history by two very specific scientific discoveries. The first of these discoveries was the discovery that was made by scientists such as Max Planck and Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg and others, and followed up on now in more modern times by scientists such as William Stiller and others at Stanford, that we as a species are actually capable of directly influencing the substantive content of material reality by directed human intentionality. The second event that is going to demark this new era in human history is going to be, of course, the discovery for an absolute confirmed fact that there are other intelligent, highly technologically developed sentient species in our, not only our universe, but indeed even here in our galaxy. The first of these two discoveries of quantum physics is going to necessitate that we undertake to radically reevaluate and to restructure our traditional scientific worldview, which is wedded to the fundamental Newtonian Cartesian belief, now proven to have been false, that the universe is made up of simply these many, many irreducible integers of purely material entities that in fact interact with each other through a completely mechanical mechanism of interactions which are pursuant to the natural laws that have been programmed, wired into the actual material universe. And that is a mythology that now we have to readjust our scientific worldview to accommodate. The second of these two extraordinary events is going to reveal to us that we also have to undertake a radical and fundamental re-evaluation and restructuring of our traditional philosophical and theological thought systems, to detach them from the similar erroneous conclusion that we, in fact, not only are the only intelligent and self-conscious sentient species in the universe, but that in fact the entire universe was in fact created for the sole purpose of giving a material matrix within which our species was alone privileged to engage in the unfolding drama of salvation, in which we would evolve progressively on up from these early non-conscious entities all the way up into a transcendent realm that was actually separate in some far distant place from the physical universe that we have come to call heaven or nirvana or Valhalla or the happy hunting ground, depending entirely upon the particular culture into which we happen to have been born. During this upcoming new era, our human family, using our large Hadron super collider, which we now have buried under the border between Switzerland and France, just outside of Geneva, is going to be probing into the greatest depths of material reality itself to unlock the secrets of matter and antimatter, and to shed light on this extraordinary revelation of the relationship between inchoate quantum fields and human intentionality. At the extreme opposite end of the physical reality that we have been able to discern to date. The new Hubble telescope and the even newer Kepler space telescope and the even newer Planck space telescope, joined together with our Earth-based Gemini South telescope, which is located in Chile, which in July of this year, 2011, just 5 months from now, will finally be fitted with a new super adaptive optic camera with a coronagraph that is capable of blocking out the brilliant light from stars, so that our human family will, for the very first time in our entire history, be able to actually photograph by enhanced computer technology not only the chemical components of the planets that we are now discovering to orbit around those planets, but in fact to be able to photograph by enhanced computer technology the actual geographic features of those planets. During this decade, for the very first time in history, our 4 generations are going to experience the majority of the scientists of our human family coming to not only acknowledge that life exists on other planets in our universe and our galaxy, but indeed a majority of them finally coming to acknowledge that it is certain that intelligent life exists elsewhere in the universe. This new state of technology that is arriving in this very decade, in fact, has brought about the day that we've all been waiting for, in which there is going to be an announcement, an official announcement, that our human family has discovered the existence, first of other life, and then of intelligent life, and finally of intelligent, highly technologically developed life elsewhere in our universe and then our galaxy. This is actually an age of awe and wonder in the sky. More concretely, however, and more practically speaking, this means that our 4 generations contain and are the generational set that are going to have the privilege of having our largest generation of our 4, which is the well-known baby boom generation. Those who are between the ages of 42 and 67, that were born following the Battle of Stalingrad in 1943, when the German army was finally crushed in front of the gates of Stalingrad, following the June destruction of the Japanese army, or Japanese Navy at the Battle of Midway in June. This was the point at which the rising sense of expectation began to occur, when the Allies knew that they had basically won this war, and it would be within time we would solve this and overcome this problem of the war. That this generation began to be born at that time, and were born all the way through the 21-year period into the end of 1963 with the assassination of President Kennedy. This entire generation, the largest generation in the history of the world, and the best educated generation in the history of the world, now 97 million strong, just here in the United States, is going to be getting the privilege, but the concomitant responsibility of joining together with the second largest generation and best educated generation in the history of the world, the civic generation, the so-called Millennial generation. This is the post-Cold War generation, which actually now are between the ages of 29 and 7, who number actually 95 million. This is the idealist generation of the 21st century and the civic generation of the 21st century, who are discussed at some length in major sociological studies, such as William Strauss and Neil Howe, that did the major study called Generations, A History of America's Future, who are the ones who consistently carry the burden of confronting the major secular crisis that occurs in their century, and join together as the idealists and the civic generation to fundamentally resolve that crisis and to amend the fundamental belief structures and the institutions of our society to overcome that crisis and to restructure the institutions and belief systems to accommodate the next century. These two generations will be joined by the smaller two other generations, the remaining 33 million members of the Korean War generation, and the smaller X generation of 52 million, who you will see together don't make up the size of either one of the two larger generations. It's simply a demographic of our human family. That this is going to be the new era when these four generations of us need to join together to do this fundamental challenge of reevaluating and restructuring the entire traditional scientific worldview of our human family, to take into account the new revelations of quantum physics, and to readjust the entire philosophical and theological thinking of our human family to accommodate the reality of the existence of other highly intelligent, highly technologically developed species in our galaxy. This is going to be the challenge that we face. And while on the face of it, one might think that these two discoveries, one made in the greatest depths of material itself, material reality, in the field of quantum physics, and the other at the far extreme of the universe, in the largest telescopic scale of our reality, are somehow not connected. But upon closer analysis, we will see that the facts that have been revealed in each of these two explorations at the extreme opposite ends of our reality within the physical plane, in fact, have now placed before us the fundamental facts that we will need in this upcoming new era to answer these profound, fundamental philosophical and theological beliefs. It is the thesis of a 100-page paper that I have prepared for us here at the Congress, which is, as of 20 minutes ago, available for you for free on the internet on a new website that has just been put up. And the website is designated Open Skies Ministry, I'll give you that again later, but what I'm trying to explain is that the thesis of this presentation that I've been asked to make today, the principal thesis is that within the two basically important discoveries that have been made here in the field of quantum physics and the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence, we in fact have the tools in front of us, the factual data that we need, that fold together in a seamless new worldview that will enable us to successfully answer these questions. And the second thesis of my presentation is that the most effective possible vehicle by means of which we can carry out our responsibility as our four generations to identify these fundamental questions, answer these questions, disseminate the answers out among the people in our country and the world to help prepare our people for the shock of this discovery, and to then take the steps that are necessary to compel the changes in our public policies of all 194 nation states and of the United Nations and of the dozen international alliances that exist to accommodate this new reality with full knowledge that, as has been pointed out, that they will resist for all of their own bureaucratic and institutional and political reasons. That these four tasks are now before us as the generations, the set of four generations who in fact have been privileged to be born and alive in this decade. The presentation that you'll find there at Open Skies Ministry consists of 10 parts. That there is the background statement about all of the stuff that has been going on, which I'll touch upon here, of all of the discoveries that have been made in the last decade, reaching up to this point. And then I will, in the paper, we'll touch upon here, identify the basic nature of philosophical questions and theological questions and public policy questions that need to be addressed. And I will also, in the paper, have identified the 10 most important fundamental philosophical questions, the new questions with which we're confronted by contact with an extraterrestrial civilization, and the 10 most important theological questions. These are the two sets that I'm going to be addressing here today. But the paper also contains the 10 most important public policy questions that are confronting us, that we're going to have to answer. Now, as a context for that, in the paper, I have identified what the most important pre-contact philosophical questions are and theological questions, because it's important to be able to delineate those questions that we are still grappling with prior to this type of contact from those that are brand new. Now, as you know, last year I was asked at the last of our convocations in Laughlin, after a long 19 years of meetings there, as the general counsel for the Jesuit National Headquarters, National Office of Social Ministry, for 10 years in Washington, D.C., to come before the Congress last year and to begin this discussion, to give the details of the history of this within the church and within the religious community,